The story begins by explaining that the world was initially nothing more than a dark tempest until the goddess shed her light upon it, giving rise to a continent where 9 races were born: the Draconians, the Elves, the Soni, the Dwarves, the Demons, the Dark Elves, the Centaurs, the Beast Folk, and the Humans. And with that, the focus shifts to Light, a boy who excitedly bids farewell to his family, his parents, elves, and Yume, as the young man embarks on a journey to become a great adventurer, driven by the desire for all of them to live comfortably. Once he reaches the city, he gets slightly lost in the crowds, and right there, a member of the Beast Folk approaches him in an unfriendly manner, telling him that humans should keep their distance. Light simply apologizes and continues on his way, finally managing to find the place he was looking for: the Adventurers Guild. He goes through reception to register his name, and the receptionist informs him that he will start at rank F. He asks what kind of gift, or blessing, he possesses, and Light proudly replies that his is unlimited gacha. Seeing that she doesn't quite understand, Light decides to show her instead of explaining. He extends his hand, and a crystal-like object appears above it, which he simply presses to perform a gacha pull right there. Afterward, he takes the resulting card and says, "Release," to summon the item he obtained, but despite hoping to impress the receptionist, all he manages to conjure is a bent, completely useless fork. Seeing her distinctly unimpressed reaction in silence, Light gets slightly nervous and clarifies that this was just an example. He tries a couple more times, hoping to pull something better, but only obtains a rotten apple and a bit of moldy bread. Light tries to assure her that his luck isn't usually like this, but the receptionist insists that he must start at rank F, leaving him with no other option. So he asks if there are any jobs he can take immediately. After giving it some thought, the receptionist tells him that the easiest available quests are on the bulletin board. And seeing how lost he looks, she assumes Light has trouble reading, given the low literacy rate among humans. Keeping this in mind, she tells him that chores like gathering firewood, carrying earth, and cutting grass are always available, though the pay is quite low. Light has no problem with this, so he gladly takes all the jobs, spending the entire day working hard only to earn a few coins, which by the end of the day barely covers his lodging, meaning he now has to rely on pulling something edible with his gacha just to have a meal. As Light walks through the city, the same Beast Folk members from earlier spot him counting his coins, so they deliberately push him, then blame him for the collision. Light stumbles and falls into a mud puddle, but the Beast Folk members accuse him of dirtying their clothes and declare that he will have to pay for it. Before he can react, one of them grabs his coin pouch and says that will be enough to cover the laundry bill. Light panics and begs them to give it back, explaining that without it, he won't be able to pay for a place to stay the night. But the Beastman simply punches him before he can finish, scoffing that those measly coins could barely rent a pigsty. So they are much better off in their hands, leaving Light with no option but to lay in the mud penniless and without a place to sleep. People around him ignore him, and some even tell him to go sleep in the dumpster with the rest of the garbage. But as he sits in the mud, a woman offers him a kind hand, asking if he is all right. Light thanks her and takes her hand without thinking, but realizing his hands are covered in mud, he panics and immediately pulls away, apologizing for dirtying her hands. The elven woman, Sasha, tells him not to worry, assuring him she won't hurt him, but Light still looks distressed, so she decides to kneel down in the mud and hug him completely, despite the unpleasant stares they receive from the surrounding crowd, thereby proving her point. Light remains frozen, trying to process the fact that this elf stained her knees just to embrace him. He wonders aloud if he's dreaming, but the woman assures him that he is awake and that this is real. She helps him up gently and introduces him to her group, the Tribal Concord. And one of them explains that their group's name represents the 9 races created by the goddess. He is a Beastfolk member named Garu, the woman from earlier is an elf named Sasha, and they are also joined by Drago the Draconian, Diablo the Demon, Obero the Oni, Nano the Dwarf, Sioni the Dark Elf, and Santor the Centaur. Garu explains that the only thing they are missing is a human, and then the Tribal Concord will be the perfect adventuring party. Sasha mentions that they formed this group in pursuit of a noble cause, aiming to end racial discrimination and create a fair world for everyone, which is why they need someone like him to join, and that they would be happy to welcome him into the Tribal Concord. Light's eyes fill with hope upon hearing this, and he thanks them with a big smile, accepting the invitation to join the group. Shortly after, the group decides to explore a dungeon filled with dangerous monsters. And Light would surely have died if not for them. Drago saves him from being killed by a giant serpent, and Sasha uses her bow to shoot down another monster attacking him from behind. After clearing the area, she approaches Light and scolds him for moving too far ahead. After all, they are in the largest and most difficult dungeon in the world, and he would die instantly if anything hit him here. Light apologizes again, but Sasha gently cups his face to check if he is hurt. The others start teasing her, mentioning how cute it is to see her fussing over Light again, which makes her visibly nervous, and she hurriedly clarifies that it's not about Light himself, but that she doesn't want the reputation of the tribal concord to be ruined by losing a member. Of course, nobody believes her, but Drago lets it slide and tries to reassure Light, telling him that they love the tea he makes for them, so he is already contributing enough. That comment undoubtedly cheers Light up, so they all decide to move on since they still have a long way to go. The group makes sure to protect Light inside the dungeon until Garou notes that there's only one entrance and one exit. Drago says that in that case, this place should be a good spot, so Light assumes they are going to take a break and decides to prepare tea before Drago can say anything else. Drago tells him it won't be necessary and informs him that he is being expelled from the group. Seeing his confusion, Garou directly tells him they are kicking him out of the group, but Light still doesn't understand what he did wrong. Sasha's attitude also changes completely. She looks at him with contempt, telling him he is so stupid that it infuriates her. Sione agrees, saying she can't tell if Light's ineptitude is due to a lack of neurons or if it's just typical of humans. The entire group thinks the same, and they no longer even try to hide their repulsion towards him. Light still can't believe the situation, considering how kind they were to him before. Drago clarifies that the kindness was all a facade because they wanted him in their group. Drago explains that it has to do with his gift, the unlimited gacha. Their superiors noticed the peculiarity of his gift and suspected he might be a master, which is why they invited him to the tribal concord to keep a close eye on him. Light tells them that doesn't make sense since they themselves know that his unlimited gacha is a useless gift that serves no purpose. Garou confirms this, saying his gift is trash and his stats are those of a common human, so the higher-ups were wrong to suspect he was a master. They decided he couldn't possibly be the master, meaning he's nothing but a hindrance. Garou quips that it would have been better if the bosses had made this decision earlier, as it was obvious from the start. Sasha mentions she's greatly relieved because, while marrying a master would have secured them powerful bloodlines, the mere thought of having to marry an inferior makes her shudder. Garou tells her it was quite amusing watching her behave so suck-up-ish around him just to keep that possibility alive, but Light still doesn't understand what they are talking about. Drago warns them that they have revealed too much. But Garou replies that it doesn't matter because Light won't be talking for much longer. Drago urges him to finish it before other adventurers show up. It is then that Light finally grasps the reality. They explain that they received specific orders to eliminate any potential trouble at the root and not leave him alive. Garou swiftly uses his claws to slash Light across the face, and Light tries to process the sight of blood on his hands. At that moment, his expression turns to horror as he realizes they all want him dead. He immediately begins running for his life in a panic, but Garou laughs and tells him to keep running because he'll only end up minced by some monster in the abyss. Sasha clarifies that that will only happen if he manages to escape, which is highly unlikely in this case. Before he can get away, she uses her bow and shoots an arrow straight into his leg, sending him crashing to the ground. Light screams in pain, and Garou relishes the sound, saying it's his favorite thing about hunting humans. The others agree, so Garou lunges toward Light to attack him again and make him cry even harder. He kicks Light several times, but Drago stops him, saying that's enough. Of course, Garou is not happy about this, but Sasha reminds him that they already agreed the cover story is that he supposedly died in a surprise monster attack, so he should stop giving him injuries that contradict that. With no other choice, Garou decides to give him a quick death. But Light keeps fighting for his life, desperately trying to escape. He cries and tells them he doesn't want to die as he weakly crawls. Light exclaims that he wants to live, and when he places his hand on the ground, a magic circle suddenly appears. Drago assumes it's a teleportation trap, so he tells Garou not to let him escape. Garou leaps to finish him off with his claws, but Light vanishes completely before he can touch him. Now in the depths of the abyss, Light feels relieved to still be alive. He realizes he activated a teleportation trap that sent him to another part of the dungeon. Although that changes nothing because he's still doomed the moment he encounters one of the insane monsters that inhabit this deep abyss. The only thing he can think about is how much he misses his family, wondering why all this is happening to him. The tribal Concord treated him so well and showed him such kindness that he genuinely appreciated, respected, and believed in them. He was so happy, and yet it had all been a lie, as they had tricked him into joining the dungeon expedition, and then tried to kill him. They treated him like trash, mocking him. And he still doesn't even understand what they meant by the master, but despite everything, Light is now resolute. He is going to kill them one by one. He cannot die in this dungeon until he makes them pay and suffer. Just as he declares this, a giant level 1000 monster rises from the darkness behind him. Light doesn't know how that is even possible, as it's the kind of monster people only hear about in folktales. He then realizes he was teleported to the absolute deepest part of the abyss. The enormous monster slowly approaches, and Light can do nothing but stare in panic, yet he knows he cannot die yet. Still, he has no way to fight it because all he possesses is his gift, so wishing to see his family again, he tries again and again to pull something he can use to survive. Suddenly, his desire to live manifests, and several magic circles appear around the crystals of his gift. The monster immediately lunges at him, but the voice of a woman echoes through the area, declaring she has no mercy for anyone who threatens her master. With her mere appearance, the monster is torn to shreds, instantly crumbling at his feet. Light watches in shock as she cleanses the spot with a single sweep of her hand and gracefully approaches him to kneel. The woman doesn't hesitate to heal his wounds and apologizes for her actions, saying she couldn't bear to see his composed face and flawless skin marred by such scratches. Light notices that the wound on his leg also vanished and that all the pain is gone. The woman refers to him as Master and asks if he would grant her the honor of hearing him pronounce her name with that beautiful voice. Light nervously introduces himself, and the woman repeats his name several times, clearly delighted with how it sounds. She mentions that according to the maid's code of honor, her duty is to her master and she will live in his service even unto death. Having said this, the woman declares that she hereby swears her absolute loyalty to him. Light doesn't know what to say to this but decides to ask who she is first. In that instant, the woman reveals her level is 9,999 and that she is known as May, the ever-seeking maid. She is a super ultra rare card that came from his unlimited gacha. Light tries to process the information, but May decides to make a vow right there, telling him she will remain bound to him even beyond the grave. He tries to tell her that's impossible since his unlimited gacha is essentially useless, so someone as incredible as her couldn't possibly have come out of it. May simply ignores that and asks him to call her by her name instead of Miss. Light reluctantly agrees, but this clearly makes her happy, and she asks him permission for another humble request. May tells him she wants his authorization to use her evaluation skill to review the details of his unlimited gacha. Light asks if evaluation is actually her gift, but May clarifies that it is merely one of her innate abilities, to be precise. She tells him it is inconceivable that his gift is useless, so she wants to evaluate it for herself. Light decides to agree, so May uses evaluation to see the details of his gift and is left completely speechless. She states that his abilities are hidden under a heavy layer of concealment, making it impossible for anyone not at her level to see the true details. Knowing this, May clarifies that his unlimited gacha is far from useless. His gift, unlimited gacha, can be pulled infinite times, and the probability and rarity of the cards it produces vary based on the surrounding mana density. The rarities, starting from the highest, are extra super ultra rare, SS rare, S rare, rare, normal, and error. Light finds it hard to understand all this, so May explains that mana is something that flows throughout the world. However, its density is lower on the surface, meaning the appearance of a super ultra rare card like her is almost nil. But mana abounds in the deep parts of the dungeon, which means he has a much better chance of pulling a rare card down here. May tells him that his bravery is admirable for having ventured alone to the bottom of the dungeon just to maximize his unlimited gacha, and even more so for pulling her card. That said, facing any monster could be deadly given his current stats. Still, May assures him that he has nothing to fear because she will be with him at all times. From now on, Light suddenly interrupts her to say that wasn't the case he would never have dared to venture into the abyss on his own. He explains that he was with a group, but they ended up betraying him. They cut him, shot him with arrows, and he was nearly killed by his own friends. Light breaks down as he speaks, exclaiming that they mocked his gift and called him trash. All he wanted was to support his family, so he doesn't understand how they could treat him like that just for being human. The pain was unbearable. It hurt so much, and all for the sake of their grand speech about ending discrimination and creating a fair world. Light falls to his knees, weeping in frustration, saying he won't rest until they pay for what they did. May suddenly embraces him, wrapping her arms around him in a comforting gesture. Light instantly calms down, and she tells him that a maid like her cannot possibly comprehend the depth of suffering he has endured, yet he must be sure that with her power at his disposal, bringing divine retribution upon his enemies is a simple matter. He only needs to give the order. By her maid's honor, she will pursue those unfaithful deceivers with maximum acceleration and present their heads on pikes before him. Seeing her dark and threatening expression, Light pulls away and tells her she cannot do that. After all, he trusted them and was deceived, nearly dying after being beaten and sent to this hellhole, but that only happened because he was weak, so the only thing he has to do is get stronger. It might be impossible for a human like him, but he wants to take revenge with his own hands and make them suffer. May kneels before him, telling him his wish is hers, and she will therefore help him obtain his vengeance, as she believes in his potential above all else. Light thanks her for her loyalty, and with that, he pulls his unlimited gacha again to establish a base camp, his path to vengeance, and thus the black depths were bathed in a brilliant light, becoming the first page of his great story of revenge, and thus ends Chapter 1. 3 years later, in the deepest part of the abyss, Light walks through the halls of a vast castle, with May diligently by his side as all the surrounding maids bow before him. However, it isn't long before they begin flattering him incessantly. And naturally, this does not amuse May, who immediately requests Light's permission to silence the chattering maidservants, but Light tries to tell her it's no big deal since they are simply enchanted by him and aren't harming anyone. Light then steps out to walk the streets of his territory, where everyone greets him reverently as their lord, but one woman informs him that snacks are becoming scarce, so Light assures her he will notify the administrator. As they continue their walk, May mentions she will ensure the issue is quickly resolved so that the people do not suspect a logistical problem. But Light tells her that since the population has grown over the last 3 years, it might be necessary to revise the entire system. Light then asks what the other members of the quartet are doing, and May informs him they are diligently fulfilling their missions. Ayuki, specifically, has been exploring the upper perimeter of the abyss and creating maps. Light is pleased, noting that the forests around the abyss are filled with monsters, but assures May that this is no problem for a genius like Ayuki, though May counters, saying she's not so sure, knowing Ayuki is as capricious as a cat. Light simply laughs and clarifies that he wouldn't have her any other way, seeing no issue with it. He then inquires about the others, and May reports that L has been working diligently on developing new magic according to his grand plan and is making excellent progress. Light mentions they have many moving pieces and hopes L doesn't get overwhelmed, but May reminds him that they enjoy serving him, so he has nothing to worry about. Finally, May informs him that Nazuna is patrolling the castle grounds as always. After all, she is an expert in close combat, though she is less reliable outside of fighting. Light says he enjoys having Nazuna around as she makes things more fun, so he isn't bothered by her quirks. Upon returning to the castle, a man named Jack greets them and tells Light he was tired of waiting. May is immediately irritated by the casual way Jack addresses her lord and reminds him that he must speak to Light with respect. May mentally curses Jack but doesn't say it aloud. Light dismisses May's concern, saying it is fine because he views Jack almost like an older brother. May remains thoroughly displeased, but Light informs her he is going to train for a while, meaning she will have to resolve her feelings internally. Afterward, on the training field, Light prepares to fight Jack, stating there will be no holding back today. Jack challenges him to come at him with everything he's got. So Light immediately rushes forward, delivering a powerful punch to his stomach that forces Jack to step back, momentarily surprised. A slightly surprised Jack laughs and tells him to calm down, noting that the strike would have killed anyone else but him. Fortunately, he is not called Jack the Iron Blood Barricade for nothing. Light reminds him that he already said he wouldn't hold back and doesn't intend to stop now. Jack admires his determination and launches a punch of his own, easily dodging Light's counterattacks. Meanwhile, we see Nazuna happily patrolling the castle grounds, clearly enjoying fulfilling Light's orders as she considers it a supremely important duty. A group of maids praises her work ethic as admirable, and Nazuna is visibly thrilled upon hearing the commendations before asking the maids where she should patrol next. The question leaves Nazuna a bit confused, so the maids explain that there is a very important and completely secret place they would love for her to check for them, a location they are not permitted to access, meaning only she can go. Nazuna asks what place they are talking about, but the maids simply smile wickedly. Still confused, Nazuna goes to the spot they mentioned but runs into May, who asks if something is wrong, wanting to know why she is entering Light's bedroom. Nazuna proudly states that it is because she is on patrol, but May assures her that the area is already secured, so she should go elsewhere. Ignoring May, Nazuna asks what May herself is doing in Light's room if he is currently training with Jack. May immediately becomes nervous and quickly invents an excuse, saying she was cleaning, as according to the maid's code, she cannot remain idle even when Light is not present. Without letting her finish, Nazuna enters the room to inspect her work, but upon seeing the messy bed, she comments that it looks like someone was rolling around and kicking their legs while sniffing the pillows. May tries to maintain her composure, telling Nazuna she did it on purpose because it is part of her unique bed-making style. Nazuna, being as clueless as ever, gets excited and asks her to elaborate, but May clarifies that it is a professional secret, so she cannot reveal it. Nazuna becomes even more excited, assuming it is a super special skill only useful for household chores, making her admire May even more and stating that she truly lives up to her reputation as Light's first and primary summon. May simply smiles and plays along, but inwardly, she is relieved that Nazuna is so brainless. Nazuna then remembers that the maids asked her to deliver a message to May, so she starts looking for the letter they gave her, and when she finally finds it, she reads it aloud without thinking, revealing that the other maids want to end May's monopoly over Light's room, demanding that all maids have the right to clean his quarters and that the tyrannical reign of the chief maid be brought to an end. Nazuna reads the letter with an innocent smile, but says she didn't quite understand the message, wondering if they are telling her to get checked for some kind of curse or mind spell. May keeps a straight face and tells her it is nothing she should worry about, as it is her responsibility as the chief maid to personally deal with the other maids and their complaints. She gives Nazuna 3 coins as thanks, and Nazuna leaves happier than ever, celebrating that she received a tip. Without wasting time, Nazuna heads straight to the market to immediately spend her money. The shop owner tells her a new shipment of snacks and sweets has just arrived. Nazuna reviews the chocolates and cakes, as well as the chips and shrimp crackers, trying to decide what to buy. But after seeing all the options, she realizes that's not what her stomach wants, so she ultimately opts for dorayaki and milk. While enjoying her food, she casually runs into Aoyuki and asks what she is doing there, as she was supposed to go up to the surface to explore the forest surrounding the abyss. Aoyuki responds with only cat-like noises, but for some reason, Nazuna assumes she understands what she is saying. Despite this, Aoyuki continues to refuse to speak like a human, so Nazuna reminds her that unlike Light, she doesn't actually understand what she is trying to communicate. Aoyuki still refuses to speak as a human, so Nazuna reminds her that unlike Light, she cannot understand what she is saying, yet Nazuna continues to guess, assuming there were trees in the way, and she offers to cut them down for her. Nazuna then realizes one cannot explore a forest without trees, so she guesses Aoyuki ran into a super strong monster. Although she doesn't use words, it is clear that Aoyuki is frustrated by the misunderstanding. And of course, Nazuna doesn't catch the hint, proudly stating that even though she was summoned after Aoyuki, she seems older and stronger. Tired of the endless chatter, Aoyuki decides to show Nazuna a piece of paper and finally speaks, saying that she found nothing, having completed a section of the map May had requested. So she simply returned to deliver it. Nazuna then gives Aoyuki a hard slap on the back, laughing and asking why she didn't just say so from the beginning. Dismissed with the information, Aoyuki finally leaves, saying she's still on patrol. Shortly after, Nazuna heads to the throne room, making sure no one is around before approaching the throne. She mentions being annoyed that she hasn't seen her master all day, and it would be nice to see him sitting on the throne since he always looks great when he does. Nazuna embraces the throne and rubs her face against it, wishing Light were there at that moment, but her enjoyment is interrupted by the sound of something snapping, and she realizes she broke the wing off one of the throne's sculptures. Nazuna panics, and after clumsily putting it back in place, she immediately flees, hoping no one saw her. Meanwhile, Jack calls a pause in the fight and suggests calling it a day to go to the baths. Light accepts the proposal, so after a long day of training, they decide to relax. Jack comments that Light has practically mastered the use of his body as a weapon, though Light credits Jack entirely. Jack reminds him that only a select few can stand up to him down here in the abyss, meaning there are even fewer on the surface, but notes that fewer does not mean zero. Light catches the shift in tone when Jack says that last part, and his expression turns serious as he tells Jack he is aware, noting that the surface world is full of unknowns, so he won't let his guard down for anything because he needs to see his revenge through to the end. In another scene, we see May in a meeting with the 4 junior maids who wrote the previous letter. Clearly, terrified by her authority, the maids try to feign innocence, but May reads the letter they wrote word for word to remind them what they did wrong. Feeling they have no way out, the maids have no choice but to bow and apologize for their actions. May asks them to explain themselves, but they just search for an excuse, saying they wanted to help lighten her burden since she is always so busy. Naturally, May doesn't buy the excuse and says it is even worse that they had Nazuna deliver the message instead of saying it to her face. The maids now regret their scheme, and reveal that they did it because May is dedicated to secretly sniffing the master's bed. May does her best to maintain her composure and tells them that their demands are rejected. Furthermore, from now on, she will assign the 4 of them to clean the hallway leading to the throne room, and they must do it entirely by hand. The maids immediately try to protest, saying such a thing is impossible. However, May tells them they can and they will, because the path of a maid demands it. It starts with a single step, just as climbing to level 500 begins with effort. May informs them that she will soon be going to the surface on a mission for light, so she expects everyone to work diligently in her absence. The 4 maids have no choice but to accept. Meanwhile, Nazuna returns to the market to look at a piece of armor she wants. Elle casually bumps into her and asks if she's looking for sweets or something, so Nazuna points to the armor piece, then asks what Elle is doing there, having thought she would be working on projects or doing an inspection somewhere. Elle tells her everything is going so well that she had plenty of time to come back. The two immediately start bickering as always, and Elle tells Nazuna that Light has made her a fundamental part of his revenge plans, unlike her and her tiny brain. Nazuna clarifies that she has been busy patrolling, but Elle boasts that she had tea with Light the other day to inform him of the progress of her plans. Elle assures her that next time, she will reserve a private room for them to dine together, and there will be action that night. Nazuna obviously misses the insinuation and complains, saying she wants to have tea with Light, too. Elle asks if she only wants the tea part, but Nazuna doesn't understand what else there would be. Elle then tries to explain that she means something that would stoke the fire of jealousy. Seeing Nazuna's disorientation, Elle tells her she doesn't know if Nazuna is foolish or childish. Nazuna assumes Elle is jealous of her abilities, so she mentions that she knows Elle sucks at close combat despite being very good at magic, which is why if Elle ever has trouble, she can ask for help anytime. Elle can't help but think how unbelievable Nazuna is but decides to play along, telling her that she will surely ask for that help someday. Clearly satisfied, Nazuna returns to the castle to continue her patrol, and Elle is certain that Nazuna truly is one of a kind. On the other side, the maids continue to complain about the punishment they received. They are more than annoyed by the chief maid's unfair management style, feeling intense envy and disgust. Despite their protests, they know May is practically untouchable, so they can do nothing but dream. The 4 maids start fantasizing about cleaning Light's room instead of May, even saying they would surely take his used utensils and lick them clean. May has a very busy schedule, so they don't understand why she doesn't allow them to handle the cleaning. One of the maids mentions that May was the first summoned Light maid, and apparently, 3 months passed until Ayuki was summoned as the second. This means they were alone until then, trapped in a dungeon with dangerous monsters, not to mention that Light's level was even lower at that time. Imagining that situation, the maids immediately explode with jealousy, saying May is extremely lucky. Suddenly, the 4 decide to try to channel their rage into a powerful curse that would kill May. However, their ritual is interrupted when May appears, saying she was passing by and overheard some very choice words that seemed directed at her. They were so intent on chanting the word die that she now wants them to explain why. The maids tremble with fear, and one of them immediately says she swore absolute loyalty to May. The others do the same, saying they have admired her as a mentor and sister and wanted to be her subordinates even before being summoned. Despite their obvious lies, May repeats the chant of die die die, making the maids feel cornered, and they admit they were a little jealous. After all, May was the first. May clarifies that she is under no obligation to share this. But during the 3 months leading up to Ayuki's summoning, Light spent the entire time reading all kinds of books and practicing all sorts of martial arts. There was no time for any of the vulgar things they have been fantasizing about. May confesses that she came by because she thought she had been too harsh on them. Perhaps her orders were excessive. However, she was mistaken, and since they apparently haven't had enough, she also assigns them to clean the throne room. The maids try to protest again, but May tells them they have plenty of time to curse her, so they clearly have time to clean. With no other option, they are forced to clean the throne room, knowing they must finish by morning. And they aren't even sure if they can manage it in time. In the midst of their rush, the wing of the sculpture that Nazuna had previously broken falls off when one of them tries to clean the throne. As they panic, Nazuna lies peacefully in bed, completely happy about another successful day protecting the peace, but still a little disappointed that she didn't see her master at all, which frustrates her. If he would just give the order, she would undoubtedly go to the surface and crush all the losers there. It is clear that this won't happen. So, with no other option, Nazuna falls asleep hoping to at least see Light the next day. Just as she wished, the next day, while arguing with L, Light finds Nazuna in the training fields. Nazuna is overcome with joy, knowing her wish came true, though L assures her that Light didn't come to see her. As they start trading insults again, Light decides to pet Aoyuki like a cat, finding her very cute. L asks him what he's doing, and Light explains that he can't help but treat her like a real cat. The girls are clearly not pleased with this, so Light asks Aoyuki to give him some space as it's time to get down to business. Suddenly, a massive hellhound appears, and Light begins to tremble with fear due to the trauma of his first day in the abyss. As he freezes, the girls' attitude suddenly changes. They glare at the hellhound with menacing eyes, viewing its presence as an offense to their master. They even think they should eradicate them from both the dungeon and the surface because their mere presence disturbs their master. The hellhound retreats, sensing the imposing power of their level 9,999, but Light interrupts them before they can act, clarifying that he is fine now and approaching the hellhound to pet it, apologizing for the girl's behavior. Light knows that even if he said it as a joke, the girls would genuinely annihilate them, but that's not what he wants. Without further delay, he informs them that he has received news from May, so it is time to put the plan into action. The prey has taken the bait, so he counts on them to serve the first course of his revenge, which has been 3 years in the making, and thus ends episode 2.